One daughter saves lives, my father said, raising his glass. The other makes sure the floors are clean enough to walk on. Polite laughter floated across the Thanksgiving table. 14 guests, crystal glasses, perfect china, and my 9-year-old daughter sitting beside me. She squeezed my hand. Mom, is cleaning houses something bad? Her voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the room. That was the moment something inside me stopped shrinking. But to understand why that night mattered, you need to understand the 7 years before it. 7 years earlier, I had driven back to Brook Hollow with 2 suitcases and a toddler asking why Daddy wasn't coming home. He had emptied our joint account before filing for divorce. By Sunday, I was standing on my parents' porch with Emma on my hip. My father looked at the luggage first. The cottage in the back is empty. He said, temporary solution. Don't get comfortable. No hug. No, are you okay? Just policy. The cottage was 360 square feet. 1 bedroom, uneven floorboards, a shower that went cold in under 5 minutes. But it was shelter. Within days, I was cleaning houses for cash. $15 an hour. Scrubbing bathtubs in homes bigger than the house I grew up in. That same month, my sister Claire finished her orthopedic residency. My parents hosted 20 guests to celebrate. I arrived late, bleach still on my sleeves. Dad tapped his fork on his glass. Tessa's late, he said loudly. She was polishing someone else's kitchen. Easy laughter. Claire looked down. I said nothing. Growing up, Claire had SAT tutors and private campus tours. When she got into medical school, Dad refinanced the house. When I mentioned transferring to a university, he said, community college is practical. Not everyone needs ambition. I paid my own tuition, waitressing, babysitting, cleaning church offices. I graduated with honors. No one attended, but cleaning houses taught me something unexpected. The valley was full of luxury estates owned by out-of-town families. They didn't just need cleaning. They needed oversight, vendor management, maintenance scheduling, insurance coordination, security checks, estate management. So at 1:52 a.m., while Emma slept, I registered an LLC. I named it Willow Ridge Estate Services. Professionally, I used my married name, Tessa Morgan, not O'Neill. It was easier that way. Year 2 nearly destroyed me. A contractor vanished mid-renovation, leaving $42,000 in damages tied to my name. I had to take a personal loan to protect my reputation. I remember sitting in the cottage kitchen at 2 a.m., staring at spreadsheets and wondering if my father had been right about me. But I rebuilt, slowly, carefully. By year 4, we had 14 full-service estate contracts. Our annual management agreements ranged between $140,000 and $220,000 depending on property size and staffing. Gross revenue crossed $2.3 million. After payroll, insurance, equipment, and vendor coordination, margins were tight. But it was real. The only person who invested in me early was my father's estranged sister, Evelyn. Dad cut her off after her divorce because reputation mattered more than happiness in Brook Hollow. She rebuilt alone. I'm investing because no one invested in me, she said. She reviewed my contracts, introduced me to an estate attorney, helped me avoid mistakes. She wasn't a miracle. She was mentorship. And 3 years later, the very developer my father was desperate to impress that Thanksgiving was one of my biggest clients. He just didn't know who I was yet, but he was about to. And when he found out, everything would change. My father decides to sell the land under my cottage. The buyer is my biggest client, and my sister admits her perfect life is cracking. By year 5, Willow Ridge managed 16 estates across the valley. Hawthorne Development trusted us with 3 of their highest value properties. I had monthly video calls with their CEO, Richard Hawthorne. He knew me as Tessa Morgan, not O'Neill. Then one Sunday, my father casually said, "That land behind the house, I'm selling." The cottage sat on it. "Buyer?" I asked. "Hawthorne Development." My stomach tightened. He handed me preliminary paperwork weeks later. Move-out agreement. For months. Sale price, $410,000. I saw the clause. Property represented as vacant. You told them it was empty. "It will be," he said flatly. Later that week, my sister texted, "Can we talk?" We met 20 minutes away. Claire looked exhausted. "Daniel wants a divorce." "How long?" "For months." She stared at her coffee. "Do you know what it feels like to build your entire identity around someone else's approval?" Her voice trembled. Dad wanted the surgeon. Daniel wanted the polished wife. I don't know what I want. She hadn't slept properly in months. She carried $198,000 in student debt. Suddenly, the golden daughter didn't look golden. She looked trapped. 3 months before Thanksgiving, the local business review called. Our entrepreneurs under 35 issue publishes every November. The reporter said, "Holiday circulation is highest." That explained the timing. I agreed, but didn't tell my parents. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, Dad burst into the kitchen, smiling. "Guess who's coming for dinner? Richard Hawthorne himself." My biggest client. My father had no idea. Neither did Hawthorne. Yet, and for the first time in 7 years. I wasn't dreading Thanksgiving. I was ready for it. The toast, the joke, my daughter's question, and the truth finally spoken out loud. 14 guests, candles lit. Dad gave his usual speech. One daughter saves lives. The other keeps things tidy. Laughter. Emma whispered, "Is that bad?" I stood. "Any honest work is good work," I told her calmly. "But since it was mentioned, let me clarify something." Dad hissed, "Sit down." "No." I spoke clearly. We manage full-service estate operations, vendor contracts, security oversight, renovation supervision, seasonal staffing. Our average annual agreement runs between $140,000 and $220,000 per estate. Silence. We manage 16 properties. Gross revenue last year was $2.3 million. Hawthorne slowly set down his glass. "You own Willow Ridge?" "Yes." His eyes narrowed. "Morgan, not O'Neill." I never made the connection. He turned to my father. "She manages my entire Valley portfolio." Color drained from Dad's face. "You told me she was between jobs." Then Hawthorne asked slowly, "The cottage you're selling, that's where she lives?" I nodded. He looked at my father. "So, you were willing to displace the person protecting my multimillion-dollar assets to close a deal with me?" The room shifted. Pastor Williams cleared his throat. "Richard, that's not stewardship." Hawthorne's voice stayed calm. "This was pre-due diligence. My team would have flagged occupancy, but your representation influenced my offer." Dad said nothing. The Business Review article appeared on the table moments later. Courtesy of Aunt Evelyn. Full-page feature. My face. Headline bold. The humiliation wasn't loud. It was precise. Within minutes, guests began leaving. Hawthorne buttoned his jacket. "We're pausing negotiations." And just like that, the deal collapsed. And so did my father's carefully curated image. The town reacts. My father loses more than a land deal. And he calls me. Small towns don't need social media. They have pews. By Sunday, everyone knew. Dad stepped down from 2 committees. Mom quietly left her charity board. Hawthorne withdrew entirely. Willow Ridge gained 3 new contracts from readers of the article. One night, Dad called. "You've made your point." "That wasn't a point," I replied. "That was truth." The land deal falling apart hurt him financially. "I'm in trouble," he admitted quietly. For a moment, I felt the daughter part of me soften. Then I remembered 7 winters in that cottage. I'm not angry, I said. I'm just done shrinking. He didn't apologize, but he didn't argue either. Claire finalized her divorce in February. She moved into a small apartment alone. We talked more, not about comparison, about rebuilding. And for the first time, we were sisters, not roles. A handwritten letter arrives. 7 words. And I decide what peace really means. In March, an envelope arrived. All caps handwriting. Inside, Tessa. I read the article carefully. Dad. 7 words. Not an apology, but not silence either. I didn't call. Peace doesn't require reconciliation. It requires boundaries. Willow Ridge projected $3.1 million that year across 18 estates and 2 new development contracts. Growth was slow, earned, real. One evening, Emma told her friend, "My mom runs a whole company." And I asked. She said, "That's cool." I said, "I know." That was enough. I don't tell this story for revenge. I tell it because someone somewhere is still sitting at a table where they're the punchline. You don't need a toast to define you. You don't need applause to validate you. And you definitely don't need permission to stand up. Because sometimes the quietest person at the table is the strongest one in the room. And when they finally speak, everything changes.